Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this YT Live, LinkedIn Live, and Facebook Live session on the Enhanced Online GMAT. My name is Raja Sadana. I'm one of the co-founders of e-GMAT, and I'm going to be your main host today. With me, we have Sehar from the GMAC, and we're going to talk about pretty much everything about the Enhanced Online GMAT. And what it brings to the table and how you can make the best of this fantastic option that the GMAC has provided. Um, this is a fairly, let's say, different kind of session than what we usually do. We're going to talk about what the Enhanced Online GMAT exam is. Sehar has this wonderful presentation that she's going to walk through first, so that each one of you knows what the exam is about, how is it different from the earlier online GMAT as well as the In-Center test, and then we're going to go through certain questions that we've already prepared. Okay, Seher, welcome to the session, and thank you for taking the time out to doing this.
Thank you so much, Rajat. Pleasure to be a part of this live session today. And happy to answer all the questions that everyone might have regarding the Enhanced Online GMAT. We're as excited about the Enhanced Online GMAT as everyone else is. So really happy to talk about it at length today.
Okay, so Seher, should we then start with a brief introduction as to what the Enhanced Online Exam is, and then we can go into the questions?
Absolutely.
So let me add your presentation to the share, and yes.
Just confirm if you can see the screen.
We can all see it.
clearly.
Yes,
Awesome.
perfectly.
So, okay. So today, in just about 20, 30 minutes, I'll try to keep it brief so that we have more time for questions later. But
just before you go, can you also talk about what your role is at the GMAC? What do you manage?
Of course. So I'm responsible for. I'm the marketing manager for South Asia at GMAC, and I manage candidate outreach sessions. So there's a lot of test prep, relationship management, and candidate outreach that I do for GMAC. Along with that, there's also prep products that we have in bulk. So I manage that as well for our region. And the idea is to make sure that the information goes to our candidates, and we keep participating in sessions like these with different test prep companies. We don't have specific partners, but we partner with any test prep company, whoever approaches us to do sessions like this. And basically just making sure that the right information gets communicated to candidates who are keen on taking the GMAT.
Okay. All right, then, Sahar, let's move forward. Thank you so much for that.
Great. So first of all, let's start with what we're going to cover in the next 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to talk about the Enhanced Online GMAT. I'm going to talk about the difference between the Enhanced Online GMAT and the Test Center GMAT. Then we'll talk a little about how to register for the Online GMAT, and how do you manage your appointments, how do you check in, how do you get started, what are the best practices that you must adopt before you actually take the Online GMAT or consider to register for the exam. We'll talk also about how fair and secure the exam is. I'll take you through some of the measures, some of the technical details that we at GMAC are very particular about to make sure that the exam experience is absolutely secure. I'll also talk about how you can view and send your score to schools. There are certain changes there. There are added features like reviewing your score for the online GMAT, for the Enhanced Online GMAT. So we'll talk about that. In the end, I'll also cover a little bit about preparation and what are the free resources that you have. So quickly, this is something which I'm sure you all know by now. Enhanced Online GMAT is the online GMAT only, just with enhanced features. So you can take it at the comfort of your home using your laptop and your internet connection and a power supply. That's actually the only thing that you need to take the Online GMAT exam from home. The price is $250 as it was before, so nothing has changed in terms of the price, and it has the same structure, same scoring methodology as the GMAT. Just one great change that we'd like to announce is that this is now a permanent solution. I know last year there used to be, for every session that we did, we used to come up also with a date that this Online GMAT is valid till, say, October or till December. So, but now, thankfully, we can happily say that it's a permanent solution. and you don't have to worry on the validity because it's going to stay. Speaking about what's different and from the test center and what's the same. So basically what's different is the online GMAT exam is you take it from home. It's a human proctored exam. You basically have to keep your live feed on throughout the exam, and some proctor is actually looking at you throughout while you take the exam and is making sure that there's no cheating or any kind of suspicious activity happening while you take the exam. And you can, again, like I said, all you need is a good internet connection and a good system, a reliable system for you to take the online GMAT. And that's the same case for enhanced as well. The only differences for enhanced online GMAT, I just want to make sure you understand that earlier our requirement for internet connectivity, the bandwidth requirement was 1 Mbps, but now for the enhanced online GMAT, you can also see the system requirements now, it's 1.5. And I'd also like to highlight that though we say 1.5 definitely is minimal that's needed, but for an optimal experience, I would encourage you to have 2 Mbps for internet connectivity for your enhanced online GMAT.
Just, do you want us to share the system requirements link right now? I think that.
Yeah, maybe in some time we'll go there. I
Yes,
just wanted to highlight this bit because it was important.
Hmm.
Let's talk about structure, scores, experience policies, and delivery. Well, the content and the structure is the same of the enhanced online GMAT as the test center is. There's going to be quant, verbal, IR, and AWA. The section time allotted is the same. What's good is that now you have AWA section as well, which you did not have in your previous version of the online GMAT. You just had quant, verbal, and IR, but now you have AWA as well. So in case your school, any particular school was insisting on having the AWA section, you have it now. So it's the same. Also, you have 2 optional 8-minute breaks. Earlier in the online GMAT, you had 1 optional 5-minute break, but now you have 2 optional 8-minute breaks, exactly the way you used to have at the test center GMAT. And the score is valid for 5 years, as it has always been. So there's nothing changed there. I'll talk more about some of these differences in the end also, so that there's clarity, but just highlighting some here that now you can preview your score at the end of the exam, and you also get your official score after a week. And like the online GMAT before, you could send complimentary unlimited scores to as many programs as you'd like. Same thing with the enhanced version as well. Exam structure, I've already discussed, but this is just to let you know there are 3 ways in which you can take the exam. You could take AWA, then IR, then quant, and then verbal, or you could take a quant or verbal first, then follow it up with IR and AWA. So you can actually choose, and that gives a lot of, I feel you can actually strategize your test taking way, and you can optimize how you get your best score depending on what your strength area is and what you're comfortable taking. So I think that gives great flexibility to the candidates now, the fact that you can select your section order. And it's a 3-hour, 7-minute test without any breaks. And then there are 2 8-minute breaks. So that's how it works. And you get your break after the first section and after the second section. So you can also decide the section order basis the breaks. After what section or before which section you'd like a break, you can decide your test taking strategy accordingly. Moving on, the test I've already confirmed. It's a $250 test. You can book a slot any time of the day, actually, even at like 4 a.m. at night, you can actually take the test. Or I should say in the morning, you can take the test.
Yeah, don't take it at 4 a.m. at night, yes.
You can just take it anytime within 30-minute intervals. The great thing is that with the earlier the online GMAT, we just had 1 attempt and then it became 2. And with enhanced version also, as of now, there are 2 attempts that are allowed in a lifetime as of now. So that's one of the limitations. Maybe if you want to take it more number of times, that's right now not possible, but that's what we're offering currently. Moving on,
just on that, you still have
absolutely.
the option to go in center after you take the 2 attempts, right?
Absolutely, yes. So if you're talking about the test center, we can take the test 5 times in a year, 8 times in a lifetime. That's actually If you don't take the online test, you can take 5 times in a year. If you take the online 2 attempts, then you have 3 attempts remaining for the test center, and obviously 6 attempts remaining for your lifetime. So now the 5 in a year and 8 in a lifetime is basically combined number of attempts. And that includes your online, which is 2 at max, and then the rest is test center. Okay, this is the most important announcement actually that I wanted to make, because you all have obviously heard about the enhanced version of the online GMAT, but not many maybe know that now we accept Aadhaar card, which was something very big. I feel for the company, we've been working on it since quite some time to make sure that passport is not a restriction. So those people who don't have a passport and wish to take the exam, now they can, using the Aadhaar card. But this comes with a disclaimer that this is only applicable for online GMAT. Only for the enhanced online GMAT, you can use your Aadhaar card as an ID proof to take the exam. It's not the case with test center. With test center, you still need the passport. So with online, you can choose to use either Aadhaar or passport. So both of them are acceptable. It depends on whatever is available to you. Let's talk quickly about registration. So you can take the test, I've discussed 2 times in your lifetime, and you need to have a 16-day gap between the appointments. So this is just a sample, account section that you can see on the left, where if you see that this particular candidate as a sample has taken 2 online tests, and now the registration bit, which you can see right below the red circle there, that it's grayed out because the registration attempt limit has reached. So you will not be able to book another online GMAT, but you need to keep a minimum 16-day gap between the 2 appointments, between the 2 online appointments, in case you want to repeat your GMAT for a higher score. As of now, even for test center, you need to keep a gap of 16 days. But if you're switching between formats, that means if you took an online GMAT and then you want to take a test center GMAT, you don't need to wait for 16 days. You can take it with the very next day. But between the same format, if you're repeating the test, then you need to keep a 16-day gap between appointments. Accommodations are available for people who have any kind of disability. Obviously, you can apply for accommodations in the form of extended time, extended breaks on MBA.com, and these are approved at candidate level. So depending on your case will be reviewed, and then accommodation will be provided.
Sir, one question. If someone has taken the former online GMAT, do those attempts count towards this current enhanced online GMAT?
Correct. Yes, they do. If you've already taken 2 online GMATs before, we actually launched the enhanced version, that means you've exhausted that limit.
Got it.
Yeah. So talking about checking in and getting started, you need to run a system test. Again, if you can just provide, Raja, the system link right now, the links that I shared.
Karthik, if you can share the links.
Test. So this is, you must do the system check before. Again, here I'd like to mention that though the limit says 1.5, but for an optimal experience, make sure you have 2 Mbps internet bandwidth to actually take the test. And if you have a spotty internet, or you don't have a reliable way to even get one, so then I would say then go for the test center GMAT. In terms of security, your proctor will ask you if everything goes fine, if your system test works, and you have already booked the test, and then the proctor will just do basic checks where the proctor will ask you to do a 360-degree scan via webcam of your desk, of your workspace. He's going to ask you to show your ID. So, sometimes on the screen also, you just have to show your Aadhaar or passport, whatever you're using. Whatever you use to book the test, and show the hard copy of that. A scanned version of any ID will not do. And then once the proctor is satisfied that there are no other applications running on your system, or there's nobody in the room where you're taking the test from, if the proctor is satisfied, he'll start your test. He or she will start your test. And you have to make sure that the live feed is on throughout. So that was the case with the online GMAT as well. And the enhanced online GMAT, nothing has really changed in that regard. You can use the physical whiteboard. It's the same way that you used to use the online, you used to use it in the online GMAT version, where a physical whiteboard and an online whiteboard both were allowed. You just have to make sure that that's absolutely clean, and the proctor might ask you to erase and show it. It's just for security purpose, so that there's nothing written, before you actually take the test. There's no notes there. And the physical
Cheat
whiteboard,
sheet, those small cheat sheets. Yes.
yeah. In terms of the physical whiteboard, there's basic dimensions. You need to be sure you meet them. Otherwise, you might be asked to not use the physical whiteboard if the physical whiteboard is larger than 12 into 20. Though I don't think you need anything larger than this. It's pretty large. Otherwise, it'll be difficult to even handle it. Make sure you have 2 dry erase markers, 1 dry eraser. Even the online whiteboard, you can actually just test and use this. On mba.com/GMAT online has the online whiteboard tool already. So just practice on it, so that if in case you want to use that, you're comfortable. Physical whiteboard is easily available on Amazon. There are many questions sometimes I get, that whether do we have to buy that from mba.com. mba.com does not sell any kind of whiteboard. Amazon, Flipkart, you'll easily get it within 400, 500 rupees. So just buy one and practice on it before you actually take the test. In terms of security of the exam, so there are lots of things that are done. ID verification, there'll be security questions, the scan, the fact that you have to close all the applications, anything else running on the system will not work. Live human proctoring, the fact that not just live human proctoring, but your session is also being recorded. So in case there's any issue, it will be looked at after. And also whiteboard checks, like I said, right, where they'll ask you to show your whiteboard after every break. When you come back, you'll be asked to show your whiteboard. It has to be absolutely clean before you start the test. So all of these checks are done to make sure there's no suspicious activity. And even after the exam, if there are any case, if whether it's a technical issue or if we think that there was suspicious, or the proctor thinks that there was some suspicious activity which could not see during the test, then video reviews are done and post-exam forensics are done. So the exam experience it's to make sure that even if you take it at home, at the comfort of your home, the exam experience is absolutely fair and secure, and there's no way that candidates can get away with cheating in the
I just want to clarify on that. You showed a lot of that stuff on the last screen. It seemed very scary, but if you're not cheating, you don't have to worry about it. It's all in the background. If you plan to cheat, then beware of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're not planning to cheat, these are things that we're doing to make sure that your effort, you get the reward for your effort.
Absolutely.
The GMAC is doing. But yeah, just don't worry about that. So much is happening in the background. Is
Absolutely.
What I
if you're not a cheater, don't worry at all. Everything will go fine. Proctors are very well trained. So in case you have any questions also during the exam, you can just raise your hand, talk to the proctor. And that's the reason that, it'll actually feel like there is an invigilator out there all the time to help you in case you need to ask any questions. So feel free to.
So do you think is don't be afraid of the proctor?
Yes, don't be afraid. He's a friendly person just looking at you. And he will not at all disturb or interrupt your exam experience unless there is something, that he or she finds suspicious. Just a tip there, since we're talking about the exam experience at the proctor. Again, I was talking to actually a candidate, and he said that, one tip that the candidate actually had to share with me, which I'd like to take a minute and share with everyone, is that during the test, sometimes when you take mocks also, especially with the online GMAT, you tend to read the question aloud, or you tend to, while reading a passage, for example, you tend to read them aloud. So what happens is that in your online GMAT, when you're actually taking the test, you will not be allowed, because at that time, if you're reading something aloud, the proctor will ask you to not speak, because then there is, again, it's considered like as if, are you trying to communicate with some other person, in the room who's kind of hidden. So it's best to also practice the way you are expected to perform, or you're expected to behave at the real test day, So even for the online GMAT, so make sure that during your practice also you're not reading questions, for example, aloud, because that's the proctor will ask you at the test time to not do it. And then maybe if you're too used to reading the passage aloud, you will find it distracting to just read it in your head. So this is just one of the things, and I'm sure, Rajat, you have many more examples of candidates coming to you and sharing their experiences. But just make sure that you practice, I feel, in the same environment when you do your mocks, when you sign up. And MBA.com has 2 free mocks and 4 paid mocks. But when you sign up for mock exams also, I feel whichever mock you take it in the same environment as you would take your test, your real test in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think so. So it's just the adaptations, the things that you have to adapt to, and yes, some of you may feel, man, there's one other thing that I have to do, but it's the convenience that you're getting to be able to do this, and going for an MBA is, I mean, it's a huge investment, and this enables you not just to get that admit, but also to get that scholarship. And I think um, it's something that we've got to do. We've got to adapt a bit. If you are in the habit of speaking things out loud. If you're not in the habit of speaking things out loud, then maybe then you don't have to worry. For example, I am not, but for me, I'm in the habit of always having these things on. So I have to figure out, if I have to take the test, how do I focus without having my headphones on,
Yeah.
and that's something that I have to figure out.
Right. So just make sure that you practice also in the same environment and don't compromise there.
So one other
Um,
question, the Aadhaar card verification, I got this very interesting question, is based on the barcode. It's not, you're not trying to match the photo, but the name and the barcode, right? Or are you trying to
yes.
match the photo?
Yes. So the verification process, you have to go through it, line by line, as mentioned on the website. I'm sure the photo would also be seen because they're going to match, the photo
But if
of
it's an
the
older
candidate that
photo,
they're seeing.
so
That shouldn't be a problem.
yeah,
Shouldn't be a problem if it's an older photo.
yeah.
Speaking about the testing experience, well, you need to wear a face mask still. Obviously, I'm sure you all understand. In fact, our country is in the worst state of the pandemic now, unfortunately. So, yes, we are maintaining all health and safety measures.
So we are now in the test center, not the comfort of
Yes,
your
we are
house.
right now at the
In the
test
test
center.
center. In
Correct.
the test
At the
center.
test
Just want to
center.
make the transition.
Absolutely. This is at the test center. We need to wear a face mask throughout the test. This is one of the things which maybe stands out. So if you're not comfortable with a face mask for 3 hours or more, then I would say go for the online GMAT, because it obviously depends from a person to person, but for the online GMAT, obviously, because you're at your home and you're the only one who's taking the test in your room, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to wear the face mask, obviously. But for the test center, because there might be other candidates also at the test center with you, or even if there are no candidates, just because there's an invigilator there, the fact you have to wear the face mask, not just while entering the test center, but also throughout the test. So that's one of the mandates, just to make sure that we are following all the health and safety norms for to prevent the spread of COVID. We are also exercising social distancing, so because of which you will not get the slots that easily. So please make sure you check mba.com/find a seat, find dash a dash seat. So when you go on this link, if Kartikeya, if you can just paste this link, mba.com/find a seat. On the chat window, maybe everyone can get access to this link where you can just quickly go and see whether the test center near you is open or not, and if they are taking appointments or not, and what time works for you. So as of now, not many test centers in India are open. So that's unfortunately, obviously, because of the pandemic situation, 50 to 60% of our test centers are closed. And almost all the test centers which are there in campuses, in college campuses, are actually closed. So that might be an inconvenience for people who want to take the test at a test center. But well, we are offering you both options. So maybe it's a good idea to take it at your home. Go for the online GMAT in case the test center near you is not open, or in case you're worried about your health. Speaking about the sending your scores and reviewing your scores, so let me just first of all tell you the feature that we've announced with the enhanced online GMAT, which is that now you can preview your unofficial score. So in the online GMAT, you couldn't do that. You had to wait for the official score. But exactly the way you used to preview your test center score, you can preview your unofficial score at the end of the enhanced online GMAT as well. I just also like to highlight one difference. At the test center, when you accepted the unofficial score, you could actually you could get a printout of that score, the unofficial score, and you could, use it in case you want to, in case your deadline is, say, just the very next day and you want to send something to the school, you would just send the unofficial, and then you would then send the official scorecard after 3 weeks, because you just submitted that score. But with the online GMAT, you can only see that score. You can't take a printout of that score. So I just want to make this absolutely clear so that there's no confusion. You can't take a screenshot of the unofficial scorecard. You cannot take a print screen. You cannot print it out. You cannot use your phone and take a picture. That's not allowed. So it'll just come. You can see it, and then it'll go, and then you will get the official scorecard within 7 days. So really, there is not much delay there. So I'm sure you can, you will plan according to
I
your
think one of the big
deadlines.
benefits over there is, which I've seen students do, even when they get to know their scores, they inform the schools that they've applied to, and schools actually take that into consideration. So one of our former students who hosts such session, Dipinti, she did the same thing for Tuck. She improved from a 730 to a 760, and then she let the school know, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're going to consider it. So we'll wait for the official score report, but we've noted it down on your application." So I think the fact that you can see the score right away, I think is some that allows you to do this.
Absolutely, yeah. There's less anxiety also, like what am I going to get after 7 days? So obviously that helps, and you can obviously then within 7 days or less, in fact, you're going to get your official scorecard, and that you can send it to as many programs. I want to repeat this because it's a big advantage. It's complimentary, unlimited programs, absolutely free. You can just send your score.
Yes.
Yeah. When you preview your unofficial scorecard, you will not see your AWA score. This was the case with the test center GMAT as well. So nothing has changed with the unofficial score. You only see quant, verbal, IR, and then the total score. You don't get the AWA score in your unofficial scorecard, but when you get your official scorecard, which is within 7 days, you will get quant, verbal, IR, AWA, and the total score, obviously. Okay, I have covered this bit.
I think you want to also emphasize on the complimentary score report sending, I think.
Yeah, like I just said, it's absolutely complimentary. I think it's the 4th time I'm saying that in this session, but it's absolutely complimentary. No, that's actually, I feel, a huge advantage, because otherwise you do end up paying like $35 for every score that you have to send to the school, or to the program rather. It's program wise, really, not school wise. So for every program, you have to shell out that kind of money after 5 free scores that you get at the test center, right? But for online, the great thing is it's no more just limited to 5 free. It's unlimited. So you can just send it to as many programs as you'd like. And schools actually get your official scorecard within 8 hours. So so just make sure. So there is absolutely no lag as such from our end. So you just have to plan at least 7 days prior to your school deadline. You must take the test so that you get your official scorecard, and the school gets it within that time. But ideally, take it much before, so that you're not anxious and you're not on the edge. Rather, you have enough time. But yeah, at least a week is definitely recommended if you have your school deadlines closer. My last section is about how to prepare, because obviously, since we've spoken so much about the online GMAT and the test center GMAT, and I'll in the end again just cover once again the differences just for a quick revision, because there was another version of the online GMAT, and I don't want any confusion there. I'll cover that in the end, but just this slide is all about what are the free resources available. And I'd first of all tell you, please go on to this podcast, startmba.com/inside the GMAT podcast. Karthike, if you could just share the link with everyone in the chat. They can have have that link ready, and there are some, I think, 16 to 18 episodes already put up on this link, where there are these 30-minute podcasts, very interesting podcasts, where actually GMAT experts, so they're not people from outside, they're actually GMAT product heads, prep product heads, the EA head, so people who are actually working on the GMAT product, people who are actually designing the test. Our psychometrician is also, I believe, left a podcast there. So what I'm trying to say is that absolute experts on the GMAT are speaking about the GMAT with the candidates, and this is free. So just make use of this asset that's available. It's a very recent initiative of GMAT, and I think it's a great one. The other is the free tests that we have. Exam Pack 1 and 2 is free. Just go on to MBA.com, create your profile. Even if you don't want to take the test anytime soon, within 2 or 3 months or 4 months, I'd say at least just go and register on MBA.com, create your profile so that you get access to all the material that we are giving. Only when you create a profile, you get access to the 2 free full-length practice exams. And those exams have all retired questions of GMAT, which means that they're all real GMAT questions which have appeared in the past exams. So we are giving you those questions for practice, which means whatever you score here, if you're a fresher, you want to just see how much you're going to score in your GMAT. You don't need to guess a lot. You can just take the practice exam. The scoring methodology of the practice exam is exactly the same as of the real GMAT. Whatever you get, it's going to be similar to what you'll get at the same time in the real GMAT. Obviously, with more practice, you can improve your score with getting your fundamentals and concepts clear. You will improve your score. But yeah, practice exam, I think, gives you a good idea on what you're going to actually score in the real GMAT. And we've also launched our official guide 2022. Ebook is launched. Physical book is not yet launched, but it's going to come up soon. I think by next month, it should definitely be out on Amazon. So keep a look on that. And you can buy the official guide 2022 to practice more questions. There are lots of new chapters that we've added to make sure that your concepts are more clear on both quant and verbal. But as of now, ebook is available on Wiley, and this is the link of it. So I'll just share, maybe towards the end, I'll share this link in the chat window. And rest, just to make sure, the test center GMAT and the online GMAT, the enhanced version is what we're talking about. It's the same construct and content, right? So there shouldn't be any change in your preparation. So the preparation is absolutely the same. And what we at GMAC say is that GMAT is all about, if you want to score high, it's all about practicing. Practice questions, get your fundamentals clear, and I'm sure you'll all score great. My last bit is just a quick recap of what we spoke about in this session throughout. So here's a differences table. So it'll make you understand much better as to what are the differences really between the test center and the online GMAT, and what are the similarities. So content, structure, everything is the same. There are just the way the breaks were scheduled for the test center. It's in the same way it's scheduled for the online GMAT. The length is the same. Registration is done on MBA.com. Number of attempts is up to 2 for online. Whereas for the test center, the remaining ones are all for the test center other than those 2. And you have 5 in 12 months and 8 in a lifetime. Score scales are the same across for test center and the online GMAT. Appointment availability will differ, obviously, depending on the test center that you choose to take your GMAT in. The operating hours are different for every test center. You need to check that. Online is available every 30 minutes. You can choose your section order. So exam experience actually is I would say, almost the same now. Exam cost is the same. Score validity is the same. It's 5 years. Score access is something that we've discussed at length, but I'll again just highlight the unofficial scorecard is now available at the end of the enhanced online GMAT. You just cannot print or take a screenshot, but it's available. So there's less anxiety there. You won't feel anxious those 7 days. But you will get your official scorecard within those 7 days. For test center, you get your official scorecard within 3 weeks. But for test center, you do have the option of printing your unofficial scorecard right there and carrying it along with you. And about the score sending, we've discussed this. 5 scores can be sent free of cost to schools, to programs at a test center, and then additional scorecards, score report are charged. Whereas for online, it's absolutely free and unlimited for any number of programs or schools that you want to send. And by the way, there is no reporting done to the school saying, how many you have sent, or the school doesn't know at all. It's just for our records. We would know how many, programs you're sending it to, but just feel free to send it to as many as you'd like and make use of this opportunity that you have as of now. So that's about it from my end. I think I'm open to any questions now.
Are you open to any questions, sir, or the questions that I'm going to ask?
I'm open to questions that you're going to ask, because I'm sure that'll cover all the questions that candidates want to ask.
So, we posted this video yesterday by the Enhanced Online GMAT, which summarizes the changes from the Online GMAT. And Karthik can share this, but in response to that video, one of our students says, Rajat, you should correct it. The GMAT was always online. It's just now available at home. And the same, even when you have in-center, you're taking it on a computer. In some ways, it is online. So that was an interesting comment. But I mean, you now have the same exam. You now have pretty similar flexibility with regards to the section. Same 5 years, and essentially the comfort of your house, and the ability to pretty much schedule it at any time. So that's wonderful. So let's kind of talk about some common questions that people have. I'm not going to talk about factual questions. I'm going to talk more about concerns that people have around this. So and you've talked about it. But I still want you to confirm this. So don't get irritated if this is something
No,
that's there.
absolutely. This is a forum where it is meant for all the questions to be answered. Feel free to ask me.
Okay. So is truly the enhanced online GMAT comparable to the in-center test that I took a decade or so ago, in terms of, or rather that people take right now? I shouldn't say that I took a decade ago. Are the in-center and the enhanced online GMAT comparable in terms of difficulty? And have you guys done any sort of statistical measure with regards to these median scores in both formats, and how and they do the matchup?
So I would say they're absolutely same. Both the test center and the enhanced online version of the exam right now, because let's talk about the enhanced online GMAT, because that's what's available. They assess the same skills, leverage the same content, same structure, same exact scoring methodology that you have for both the formats, and same scoring scales. So there is really no difference. And having seen data also of people who've taken the test center GMAT versus people who've taken the online GMAT before, there is no really meaningful score difference between both formats.
Okay. And I'm going to ask this question again, which is something that someone is also asking over here. Is the quant the same? Because I've seen people reports, not directly, not our students, but in general on forums, saying, hey, the quant on the online GMAT, not the enhanced one, but the online GMAT seems harder than the quant on the in-center GMAT. And again, have the quant scores been similar as well?
Absolutely. I think, like here, I would say perceptions of what's difficult, what's easy. It varies by the candidate, by the preparation level, by what the candidate has gone through, by what is the fundamental knowledge, of the concepts, be it quant or verbal. It also depends on the level of anxiety. Are you more anxious taking the test at the test center, or more anxious taking the test at home? And there are many other factors that come into play. So I would say the perception of difficulty really is very dependent on all of these factors. These are all external factors. But as of now, as the makers of the test, what we can assure you is that they are absolutely same. There is no difference in how we are, in the questions that we're putting up.
So the items are rated the same way in both the tests?
Yes.
Okay. I can, just to add to what you said, the perception of difficulty was a very important comment that you made. So Pyle and I have made probably about 5,000 questions ourselves. And when we make question, we kind of assign a rating to it to really say it's easy, medium, or hard. And And I can tell you, we are wrong about 35% of the time. We consider something as hard, it turns out to be medium. And so the only way for us to know that something's truly easy, medium, or hard is when we actually float it out, get about 500 attempts on it, and that to unbiased attempts. And that's the only way. So even for someone who knows the questions inside out, I am wrong a third of the time. And so your perception of what's hard may be different from what actually is hard, because um, a hard question on the GMAT is not something that takes longer for you to solve. It's what people make more people make mistakes on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So again, from the scores that I've seen, we look at starts in Scholarity, and we look at starts in our mocks, and we look at people's score report. And I think if the exam goes well, if they've not had any internet disruptions, the scores kind of match up. And you've seen 770s, 780s, lots of them. Um, so yeah. So I don't think it's different. I think you'll always, even 2 years back, there were cases where people said I was scoring 740 on the online. Uh, I always call them GMAT prep tests because I come from that era. Or the official GMAT mocks, I was scoring 740, 750, and I ended up getting a 650. So those people would really just say that the official GMAT mocks are not representative as well. So I think worry about your preparation. Don't worry about the difference in the formats over there. Uh, so let's talk about this. We had the online GMAT, now we have the enhanced online GMAT, which we on view or Pearson view versus Examity. What is the difference? What's the reason for the change?
Well, the main goal for rolling out the enhanced online GMAT was to ensure that candidates have the same, or at least similar, as possible as similar experience of the test taking experience, regardless of which format they're taking the test in. So that was the whole idea of having these features for the enhanced version of the online GMAT. Because now with your breaks, with your section order flexibility, with your previewing also your unofficial scorecard, there's really no difference. And that's the whole idea, to make sure that you take the test in any format, you should have the same testing experience.
Okay. I actually am super happy with the Examity piece. I don't know if you remember a year back, we predicted that you would start with Examity to begin with, given the fact that they are in the proctoring business, online proctoring business, and that's kind of their sole reason for existence. So I'm super happy with this, and my daughter, having used Examity for the last 1 year, is super happy with that as well. Not for taking the GMAT, but for giving her school exams. Let me just clarify, but she's been super happy with it. So yeah. Uh, I you talked about, you alluded to this. I know this is not a question that we had. We said the proctors are very well trained. They're very helpful. Can you talk a bit about in some scenarios in which the proctor might help you?
Absolutely. So if there's any technical issue that a candidate face, for example, your internet or your power supply went off for some time, well, in that case, the proctor will definitely reach out to you. In case the proctor will wait, will make sure that you're absolutely comfortable. When you're back, the proctor will tell you that the exam has resumed for the same time. That the fact that whenever you were off at that time, when your internet connection went away or your power supply wasn't there, we paused the exam, and your exam answers are all restored. The fact that the comfort that you will need at that time, the proctor will provide you.
Just hold on. You pause the exam. Can you say that again?
Yes. So basically, if there is any technical issue, obviously at that time, your time will not be continued. It's not like if, for a few seconds, the time will not just be counted. That time won't be counted. Just when you had proper internet connection and your power supply and you were actually taking the test at that time, if there was any issue, your exam answers will be stored at the back end. And when you resume back, at the same time, you will continue. So you will not be losing any time because of whatever issue that you had at your end. And the exam answers are all saved at the back end. And when you join back, your test will continue. But due to for some reason, it's also possible that we are unable to resume or recover the exam. That could be for a longer duration. your power supply or your internet connection is giving you some issues, and for a longer duration it's gone, then in that case it's possible that we are unable to restore the test, and then you might have to take the test again. But again, that process, it's rare actually that happens, but if that happens, well, don't worry again, your attempt is not lost. It's not that attempt will be counted. And the other thing that you don't have to worry about is you don't have to pay the second time. So it's fine. So if there was a technical issue, we totally understand, and you can take the test. You might have to take the test again for sure. That could be slightly painful for you, no doubt, but then there's no other way, right?
Come on, I just took a official mock. It's not painful. I can take it again.
Yeah. So you can take it again, and at that time you don't have to pay again for the test. So any kind of technical issue, we make sure that we don't ask the candidate to pay.
Got it. That's actually phenomenal. I must say that, and what you just said is not something that that we get to see on forums, where what you said is, hey, if you face a technical issue, your exam will be paused. You will not lose time. And I think that's one of the other adaptations that you need to really say. Just first thing I would say is to minimize the chance that you're going to have a disruption. Please invest in a long Ethernet cable from your router to your computer. Please do that. And I can't just stress, having been a wireless guy for half my life, and someone who breathes wireless still, I don't trust the technology. I will say that, just because of the number of variables. So please invest in 50-foot long Ethernet cable and connect the damn thing to your laptop.
Actually, we also recommend that you'd see articles, or you'd find somewhere definitely on MBA.com saying that wherever possible we recommend testing on a wired network as opposed to a wireless network. It actually helps make it's just more reliable. So
it is.
Yeah, so just and obviously if you're testing from home, ask if there's nobody else should be using the internet at that time. So there's just basic things that you can make sure to take it at a time when that at least nobody in the house is using your internet, and you get full.
Don't let anyone in the house use the internet.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And wired, obviously, network is any day more reliable than wireless. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah. So I would definitely say, okay. And yes, invest in a battery in a power backup for your router, as well as if you have a laptop has long enough battery, it's perfect. But otherwise, for your router, definitely invest in one. I think it's just those are small investments you can make that can go a long way. But coming back to adapting, tell yourself there is a possibility my exam might be paused, but tell yourself I'm not going to lose time. And if it's paused, I'm going to bring back my concentration and maybe practice the mock test that way, where you're in the middle of it, and then you pause for 5 minutes and then resume again, and then see how you go. And I have a couple of students. One of them would actually play the music out loud while he was taking his mocks. Like, what if I go to a test center and there are disruptions are over there? The other would not turn the fan on and would take it in blistering heat, just trying to mimic the worst conditions that he could face in the center, and to really say, how the hell can I perform? A third guy would take it at 1 in the morning, just because to really say, what's the minimum focus? What can I score with the least focus? So yeah, train for it is what I would say. And I think as you train a bit for it, you're going to find that you actually end up performing a lot better than what you usually do, and you go in the test a lot more confident. You take the variables out, essentially. That's what I would say.
Agree.
Why are the attempts limited to 2, Sehar? Why not 5 or 7 or?
Yes, so that currently candidates have the option to take the GMAT 5 times, in a rolling 12-month period, and 8 times in a lifetime. And 2 of these attempts are for the online GMAT. Basically, based on the average number of attempts that candidates typically take, we believe that this provides a sufficient number of online and test center attempts to enable candidates to meet their business school goals. However, we absolutely understand that with the evolving COVID situation and reduced test center availability, I just told you guys that for India, at least as of now, this month we have 50% or in fact less than 50% test centers open. So we totally understand that in some areas, where there are higher infection rates, your test centers might be closed, and it may be definitely challenging for candidates to test at a test center. Our priority is definitely to maintain safety of the test centers and test center staff, and this means providing candidates the flexibility to test at home or in the test center. But as such, all I'd say is that it's in the works. We will continue to assess the need for the additional online attempts in the light of the COVID situation and candidates' needs, safety, and even the test center availability for that matter. So all I'd say is, as of now, this is what we have to offer, but we are working on it.
So one of the other things you mentioned in I think one of our conversations long time back was that the online GMAT, or the GMAT at home, let's call it this way, whether it's enhanced or online, was a project that you guys were working on even before the pandemic. So it's not, so this is something that the pandemic brought it upon you to just deliver that product a lot more quickly.
Right.
But this is a planning that has been going on, and the GMAC is always been at the forefront. I mean, you guys were the first ones to introduce a computer-based test, and so I think that's something which is there. So things will evolve and will evolve for the better.
Yes, things have evolved. In fact, if you notice for the online GMAT also, it has been quite a journey, right from just having the online whiteboard, then getting some feedback from candidates, from test prep companies like you saying, no, we need candidates really need the physical whiteboard because we need something to practice on, and then having the physical whiteboard, then increasing the attempts from 1 to 2, then having these changes like now we have everything that a test center has. So as you see, even the online GMAT has evolved over the last 1 year that we launched, and as of now I see it at its peak. Right now it's frankly all the features that your test center has, your online GMAT also has that. So there's really shouldn't have any concern. Attempts, definitely I'd say it's limited to 2, but very soon you might see more.
Okay. And if you're unable to give your exam, whether it's in-center or online, for any reason, it's not counted towards an attempt. If you didn't sit for an attempt, it's not counted as an attempt, correct?
Yes, if you did not attempt, if you just scheduled and cancelled it, then it's not counted as an attempt.
Okay. So I think then comes the next question, which is who should go for an in-center and who should go for the enhanced online test?
Well, I'd say with our recent enhancements to the GMAT online exam, we've really tried to make the decision easier, I think, for the candidates. Whether to test in a test center or online comes down to actually your personal preference. Your location, your environment in which someone would prefer to take the test in. Some candidates maybe feel more comfortable taking the test at home, taking advantage of the fact that it's 24/7 available. Just to, whenever you can just fit you can fit that slot of your GMAT whenever in your schedule. If you're working, you don't have to take even that day off. But for others, maybe they may not want that kind of environment, that they need a test center, they need to get out of the house into some other center which has other systems out there, has a very test center like feel to it. So others may not have a quiet or maybe a distraction free space at home. That's also a possibility, right? Or maybe they prefer a more like I said, a more structured
environment,
a more professional, more structured environment that a test center offers. We're also seeing some candidates try both, actually, online and test center appointments to see which option works better for them, for their goals. So, and whenever they perform better, then they take a retake with better preparation, obviously, after practicing a lot in that format. So well, I'd say now it's really up to you, because from the test side, there is no difference. There is no feature that I can point out to say, no, that is something that, except for one, I would say, which is the free score sending, which is different from the test center. For the online GMAT, you can you save money there. Definitely, you save quite a bit of dollars if you want to send your score to a lot of programs. But if you're that's kind of a candidate where you're very fixated on those top 3 or top 4 schools, and you don't want to send definitely your score to any other school, then I'd say there's no difference, because for test center,
I think the fixation comes once you get the score, not before that.
Yeah, but I'd say that if you from the feature side, there's really no difference. So it's all up to what you feel is more comfortable for you.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's a question there which I can first answer and then you can answer it. Is do the schools consider these scores differently? The answer is no. We have seen students going to Harvard, Wharton, Stanford with the online exam, the older online exam. And I think the enhanced online exam, the feedback that we got from admission officers in the ACAC conference, and Sarah, you were there briefly in the ACAC conference as well, was that with the enhancements, it's even better with regards to this. And I think the schools don't consider it any different now or next year or the following year, because we even asked them this question. 2 years from now, if someone's taking the enhanced online right now or the online GMAT right now, 2 years from now, will you consider that person differently when COVID's gone and everything's happened? And they were saying, no one knows what's going to happen 2 years from now, but my answer today is no. Those were verbatim the words that those admission directors said. So I
I think
haven't
I
seen any
couldn't
difference.
put it any better. You've absolutely nailed it. Schools do not see the two formats any different. In fact, in the earlier version of the online GMAT also, we never faced difficulty. There was never a single complaint from any candidate saying that the fact that we've taken online GMAT and the school is asking us to take the test center. That never happened even when we had a version which was different from the test center. Now, definitely there's no question on it because the versions are absolutely the same. The schools will treat your score in the exact same way, whichever format you take it in.
And I can personally tell you that we've had students who've gotten scholarships. In fact, last week we had a session with 3 Wharton students. All three of them had a 760. One of them had the online GMAT, and she had, I think, a 60 or a $80,000 fellowship in addition to the admit from Wharton. And we talked briefly about our experience with the older version of the Pearson U version of the online GMAT, and then you can watch that session again. Very helpful session on how to ace the Wharton application and what does leadership mean at Wharton, and how Wharton's a fun school versus GSP Chicago. So you can also watch that. Um, so one other thing. So this is, I think, pretty much we're done with all the questions that I have. There were a bunch of questions where people talked about, can I use my earphones? Can I use an iPad as a whiteboard? Can I use those drawing pads, which are electronic drawing pads, as an iPod, with the in-house test? And the answer is no. Only your laptop is basically the thing that you're allowed. You're not allowed any peripheral electronics.
Absolutely. You're just allowed a laptop. You can definitely have a wireless keyboard. You can have a wireless mouse or a wired mouse. That's what's allowed. But that's about it. There are no other external writing tablets or anything of that sort that's allowed.
Yes, and that's done to make sure the exam's secure. If you allow external
Yes.
electronics, God knows what's going on over there, and so that's done to make sure that the exam um, is representative of your efforts
Right.
and everyone else's efforts. And
Right.
along the same line, some people will always try and spread those rumors saying that, hey, there is a way to cheat on the test. I wouldn't allude
Right.
to this. I mean, you're trying to become a business leader.
Absolutely.
Be true to yourself, and I think work on your abilities.
Right.
Hmm. Okay, with that, I also we'll take a couple of more questions that I see, which I think are more around the logistics. But I also want to talk about, we have some upcoming sessions. So let me just share my screen around those. So first of all, I want to thank you guys for joining these MBA analytical sessions. We have an upcoming session next week on how do you consider a B school. We have Farman, who's one of our former students, who's a tech MBA. He got into both Ross and Doug. Is going to talk about why he chose Tuck over Ross, what factors did he consider, and how that answer could be different for you. And then we have some upcoming webinars. This weekend on Saturday, we have a webinar on GMAT RC. And we're going to talk about how can you excel on GMAT RC, and especially if you're not a voracious reader. And then on Sunday, we have a quant workshop. In this workshop, we're gonna give you, think of it as a proctored mock test in which we give you an estimate of where you stand in quant. In addition to that, we also talk about what areas should you work on to go from, let's say, a Q44 to a Q49. What bad habits are stopping, or inhibiting your progress as of now. So if you've not registered for this, definitely register for these webinars.
Well, I'd just like to say one thing before we end this, because there
Mm,
has been quite a chatter about test optionality and the fact that whether you should
yes.
take a standardized test like the GMAT, or do you think you can get away with it. So just quickly in a minute, I'd like to tell you that in case, first of all, the most obvious answer to whether you should take the test is or not, most of the top MBA programs still require the test score. So let me
Mm,
just put it out there. You need a test score for most test programs, and for those who have made it optional, please read between the lines. Just don't go by the headlines that you see, because most of them will ask you to submit either a essay to justify why they should consider your application when you don't have a score, or some schools are actually asking you to prove your advanced quant skills. So it's not really a easy path, I would say. So just please don't go by a media headline, or just which just reading that one line which says it's optional, and you
Yeah,
decide to not take the
I
test.
think it's really important to really say these what these schools are saying is that it's on a case by case basis. That's something which is really,
Absolutely.
really important. And I think the other piece for me from the AGA conference, which was there, was um, there was one B school, which was Ross, that said that they offered that to 15% of their students, and that was a huge number. Others B schools were lower than that, and that again was a case by case basis. And
Absolutely. And imagine how subjective the application gets, right? Because now you have to justify why you did not take an exam in those, 100 or maybe 500 words. And what all can you describe about yourself in those 500 words, which actually your three-digit GMAT score can do that very easily. And what I'd like to say here is that please read exactly what the condition is of that school. For most schools, schools will need your top programs will need your GMAT score, and even if they say it's optional, I would say a good test score definitely helps you counteract or balance out a less competitive GPA which you might have. So there you have an advantage, an opportunity to highlight your strengths, show commitment to the B school, helps candidate obviously show your academic preparedness. It helps you prepare for the B school itself, and also it helps you secure scholarships in case
oh,
that's one thing that you
tremendous.
definitely, yeah, in case that's what you're aiming at, I'm sure. And also in job interviews, many times employers, consulting company employers are asking for a GMAT score. At that time, I would say it's a huge advantage to have this score instead of trying to justify why you did not take an exam, whereas majority of your class actually took the exam and have that that three-digit GMAT score. You don't have it, and for you to justify at every stage, not just at the B school but employer level, and in fact in the future also, it's rather, I think, best is to invest those 3-4 months into preparation and get the score, because your admission would be much easier. Your application would be definitely reviewed in a much better light.
I think for me, the thing is there's a reason why Harvard mandates a GMAT score, right? I mean,
Correct.
right, the oldest business school, one of the most
Absolutely.
prestigious
Test
ones,
scores are the most standardized way for admissions,
A- and then that's one of the things when you talked about it, consulting companies, right? And that's kind of where earlier you alluded to reading between the lines. And there was an article on Poets and Quants where they talked about consulting companies don't require GMAT scores. What again, if you read that article, where and they had the head of recruitment from Bain and McKinsey comment, and they really said, we don't require, we have other ways to evaluate. But what they really didn't say is that it's not, no one said they don't value the GMAT score. And having been through that entire hiring process myself, I know when you have a GMAT score, and most likely the person, your interviewer, will have a GMAT score. That respect that you get to really say, man, this guy had a 750, I had a 740. There is a certain feeling of this guy could be my peer right away. And so for me, you starting off with an advantage, right, in that interview.
Absolutely. I think first impressions, you don't have to even,
Mm,
try and make an impression. You just have that score and that's enough. And most of your job should be done in an interview also. So
mm,
I'd say that it's extremely important for you to understand the importance of the test. Don't just look at it, as an excuse to not take it, but rather a way to show your strength. It's a way to give one more data point to that admission consulting and make that admission officer's job easy by showing that score that you have.
Yeah, you mentioned this line. I always tell our students who I speak with, and I speak with very few of our students. I wish I had more time, but one thing which I really tell people is that if you've gotten a wait list, if you've gotten an admit, the reason you've gotten an admit is or a wait list is because there's one person vouching for you in the admissions team. And you mentioned that, hey, make his or her job easier. Yes, do that with that GMAT score, because and schools still maintain, if you're waitlisted, what do? Retake the GMAT, improve your GMAT score, because what else could you do? And so yeah. So I think bottom line is, you hear all of this, just make sure you read the detail and question, and you're gonna, as you question what is not written, not just what is written, but evaluate what's written and then question what's not written over there, and ask yourself, why is it that what's not written? I think that you would get your answers right then and there. So
Right.
so, all right, Sehar, I want to thank you very much for joining me today. I mean, we had an incredible session, a ton of questions, um, and we got a lot of questions clarified. For me, the highlight was the proctors there to help you. For me, the highlight was how the exams are identical in structure. I know the scoring out of 800 was also very similar, but now they're identical even in structure as well. And then I always like Examity more than OnView. So for me, that was my personal preference. Again, not a preference as e-GMAT, but personal preference. I like companies that are just focused on one thing, and I think they do much better that way. So I'm really glad that we made this transition over to the Examity-based proctored enhanced online GMAT, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you so much, Rajat. It was a pleasure. I hope we were able to answer most of the questions that came in the comments box. But in case not, please go on MBA.com. Go on to the FAQs. There's frequently asked questions there. There's a ton of information. I'm sure your question might be answered in some of the other form on MBA.com. So just look out for those articles that we keep posting, and look out for the FAQs, and you should be sorted. And take care, everyone. Stay safe.
And one of the other things that I would say is that if you still have questions that you couldn't find, just post them in response to this video, and we'll try and bother Seher for answers if we can.
Absolutely. Sure.
So that way we have that resource as well. And then in a few days we'll be posting a video on how to build a GMAT study plan. If you're aiming for that high score, be on the lookout for that video. And as Karthik said, subscribe to the channel so you get notified when we post that video. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you on egmat.com and on our YouTube channel. And thank you, Seher, once again.
Thank you.